Yeah, I think that's about it. Let's go on here. Here am I, longtime pro advisor with QuickBooks, been with Intuit since 2004. So, I don't know how many of you grew up on QuickBooks Desktop. I did as well. And I've been using QBO since '09. So, both platforms do I support. With my current role as a QuickBooks product consultant, with Intuit, supporting accountant sales. So the people that invited you here, support them. Mostly spend my time presenting, and I'm based in Tucson right now. I was in Texas for a while. And I also do the QBO show with Stacy Kildall. I do that every 2 weeks. All right, and you can find out more about that at radiofreeqb.com. As well, there is a link to the matrix. I'll show you where you can get all this information before we even dive into product. It's our product specialist website. But this matrix allows you to compare about 135, 140 different feature sets across the QuickBooks ecosystem. Pro, Premier, Enterprise, the Accountant Editions, QBO, Essentials Plus, Advanced. I don't do much with Simple Start. It might be a column, maybe Self-Employed too, but I would argue most of your clients in the QBO realm are probably on Plus. You have some on Essentials, and maybe you're looking at Advanced. We'll look at the full lineup too. I have a slide on that just to align, right? So that's me. Let me move on to the next slide. Here are the upcoming webinars, all right? And what I should do is just upload this deck for you all. Sorry, I did not do that. There we go. Now, I wouldn't use any of the slides per se. I mean, there's nothing that I can't share, but I just uploaded it into the handout section of GoToWebinar because I want you to have these links to, the in the client file ABP, conversion training, banking and reconciliation in QBO, which is really heavy on bank feeds, rules, and reconciliation, done by Valerie Heckman. It's a great webinar. It's an hour long, but really good on setting up rules correctly to automate data entry. And then the QBO Beyond the Basics. What are the key settings for product and project tracking, and how does it behave in the file? So those are the 4 webinar series that we're going to be doing, right off the bat. So do download the PowerPoint deck. If for some reason you're unable to get it, you can always email me directly, Woody_Adams@intuit.com. And because I'm going to forget, I might as well say I wanted to thank everybody for your flexibility and being willing to move from, I think we had this set for April 18th to the 30th. I know it's quite a jump. I mean, it's tax season number 1, but number 2, I had a conflict. It was totally my fault. So I do appreciate your willingness to, just do the 30th instead of April 12th. So hopefully that won't happen again. And then again, here are links to, again, I'll show you the QBO Product Specialist video site, which we are revamping. And so it's kind of in a phase, but still, there's a lot of good stuff there. I'll point out, QBOBestPractices.com. And then if you don't have the time to train your clients on QBO, these 2 links are great. The tutorials, I think that brings you to a YouTube page, and then you have real-world training. And those are about 45-minute or an hour-long sessions. Even there's even one session on accounting 101 for your clients, using QBO. Or if you're used to desktop, here's QBO, kind of that kind of a thing. And then, of course, the Accountant Help Hub and Firm of the Future site. Very important as you're moving towards QBO. And you probably have some clients on desktop too, and that's great. But what are some of the best practices of firms that are full all-in adopting and moving away from desktop, period? How do they build their clients? How do they automate that? Those kinds of things. So today we're going to go into that, though, using QBOA heavily, because that's really the firm platform. But these links might help as well for your clients and yourself. Okay, a couple slides, show you the agenda. I'll go to QBOBestPractices.com, and then I have 2 polls to ask, and then we'll dive into product. Stats at the end of quarter 2. FY19, because our fiscal year, Intuit goes from August 1st to July 31st. So we are still in Q3. I can't really show numbers, right? Because, we're publicly traded. But what I can show you is what was at the end of Q2. So August, October, November, December. What was the end of January, right? Subscription growth for QBO up 38%, right? So we have almost 4 million subscriptions. Most are in the U.S., right? I think we're almost hitting 1 million globally, though. Overseas, which is good. Outside of the U.S., almost 1 million. So that's pretty cool. but almost 3 million in the United States. Subscriptions, Essentials Plus, Simple Start, and then and then if self-employed, which is online, it's not part of QBO, but it is a software as a service, and web-based totally. And you got a phone app and everything, just like QBO. But self-employed has also almost doubled since a year ago, and that's it's Schedule C categories. It's not chart of accounts, right? So QuickBooks Self-Employed, I still wouldn't. It's not going to be for a business, but for clients that are just, I don't know, musicians, artists that work on Etsy, Uber drivers, whatever the example of someone that wouldn't need a lot of transactions or reporting. They just want a bank feed and Schedule C categories, so it's easier for you to do tax, and that can be added to QBOA too. Right, so we'll go over the full lineup so you can see it. It's like 5 offerings total right now in QBO. But again, self-employed is one of those, but it's not really QuickBooks Online because it's not a chart of accounts and it's not double entry accounting. It's like in between. QuickBooks Self-Employed is like in between Mint and QuickBooks Online Simple Start. So you'll still have some clients on that, like you'll still have some clients on QBO Advanced, which I will introduce too if you've never heard of it. So the only reason I'm sharing these stats is there's just continued growth going to QBO. I think 70% of new customers into it are going QBO over, say, Pro, right? The other benefits that you're probably already aware, this is kind of a, I don't know, Captain Obvious slide, but still, it's worth looking at, and you can use this yourself. Again, not internal stuff, like why should I move away from desktop? For me, it's about not transferring data files, right? No accountant's copies required. I'm actually logging into the client's books. They don't see me move the mouse around or anything. I'm not remoting in, but I'm just in the single ledger in the cloud, right? And then doing their accounting, moving on to the next. So I like that part. Less IT infrastructure required. It does require high-speed internet access. There is no offline mode. Right? Not at this time. But for me, it's, no data transfer is required. No backups, portables, accountants' copies. The automatic backup, it says, that's not the backup you're thinking of. Like, it's not a true backup restore. That is just redundancy checks we're doing, and so if a client's like, hey, there's no way I'm going to QBO until I can back up my data and restore it, that is ChronoBooks. I will put that in the chat area. By far my favorite backup restore app that works with QBO, and it's like $5 a file. There's Pro Advisor affiliation as well. So if that's an obstacle, there are third-party apps, and if they don't want to go with the third-party app and they need backup restore, since it's not really a true feature in QBO, then they're just on desktop. You're going to have clients on desktop, right? Anyway, good slide to kind of why productivity changes and things like that. Mobility too on the rise. I won't show you the mobile app, but there's an app for self-employed as well as QBO. And you can even log in natively to Firefox or Google Chrome, right, and get to your QBOA on the phone or the iPad. You can do most feature functionality. The actual QBO app itself is limited in feature set. There's like 6 different transaction types and a couple reports, P&L balance sheet. You can see some customer list and chart of accounts and items. So mobility, it's a big deal, right? So more and more are doing it, hence QBO. With desktop, you would need like a hosted solution, right? It's slow, it's sluggish, and it costs way more money than, say, just a Plus subscription or Essentials. So another reason for the cloud. My main tenets of QBO, I don't own these or anything, but I was thinking of these a while ago. I probably have a 5th one. I think it's third-party ecosystem and app integration. I'll add that as a bullet eventually. But again, no file transfer, collaboration at the team level within the firm. We're going to look at that first, but also with your client. Automating data entry. I'll also point that out at the very end. It's mostly around bank rules for the feed and recurring transactions. But there are apps that help automate data entry, fetch documents and such, and create them in QBO. You probably have heard of them: Expensify, HubDoc, Receipt Bank, things like that. And then mobility, right? Any device, high-speed internet access, no offline mode though. Just keep that in mind. So and then add a 5th bullet here. It's just called third-party ecosystem. We won't go into that much, but I'll put it in the chat area. If you go into apps.com, that's where all, and you can find it, I'll show you in QBOA. You can access it in QBOA. But that is our third-party app site. All the apps there have been vetted and they integrate with QBO. And so my main point here, you'll have clients on desktop, that's great. You'll have clients on QBO. You don't have to put a client on Premier Contractor Edition just because they want like change orders or estimate to actual reporting. They could be on QBO Plus, and though QBO Plus does not have those two features, it does project tracking and even labor burden now at the job level, but it doesn't do like estimate to actual reporting or better visibility to that. There are third-party apps that you can connect to QBO, so you don't need desktop unless they just don't have good high-speed consistent connection. Okay. Now, what changes with the vision? I added this slide recently. And again, you can look at it later, download the deck. If you don't get it, email me, I'll send it to you. But the current state of using desktop, waiting on clients' files, manually checking things, cleaning up the file takes much longer. You're probably not accessing their file a lot if they have a copy of it and you do. Whereas in QBO, with better automation around bank feeds and third-party app integration and invoicing as well, the ability to access their file when you want. So the chances are, if you're doing it monthly or even quarterly, the file's probably in pretty good state, for taxes or whatever the engagement is. So ideally saving time. Once you figured out how to navigate the totally different platform, right? So that's what we'll look at today. But that's where we're trying to help firms to, this future state where you're automating getting paid using recurring sales receipts and QuickBooks payments, where all your firm is accessing the one client list in QBOA, and you're actually managing engagements using Work and Slack and Tsheets, which the firm gets too. So just to help the efficiencies and enhance them within the firm itself. And that's my goal today, is to show that with some of these apps I was just talking about. And it's all free. That's the other thing. QBOA itself is free for the firm. The only time you'll be paying for anything would be if you are going to take on the QBO subscription fee for your client under wholesale billing, because it's the cheapest way to get it. And we'll look at that too. So the firm can pay for payroll, can pay for the QBO. So current state, future state. Now here is the lineup. I don't have self-employed in there because self-employed is not considered QBO, right? But we talked about that a little bit. Self-employed is an online app, Schedule C categories. It's not a chart of accounts or double entry accounting. So that would be kind of the fifth option that you could still maintain in QBOA. I just don't have it on this slide. But you're mostly going to be in the last two columns, plus, well, essentials too. You have clients that might not need more than 3 users and they don't need class tracking, right? So they're great for essentials. Plus would be budgets, purchase orders, inventory, which is a FIFO inventory system, class tracking, two-sided items, project tracking, so job costing and labor burden. That's going to be plus. So for me, if you have clients that are used to QuickBooks Pro, you put them on plus. If you have clients that are service-based, project-based, you put them on plus because they need double-sided items. They want an item hitting COGS as well as revenue and probably some profitability, P&L, by job. That's plus. Right? Advanced is a new platform, a new offering, kind of in between. Well, it's plus with a few other features right now. I mean, we're going to build it out. It's not enterprise at this point, but I'm sure that's where we're going. But you can import transactions, particularly invoices. I can batch invoice there. There's a third-party reporting app called Fathom. So it's heavy on KPI metrics. So advanced is really for maybe mid-sized businesses that have grown beyond plus. So something to consider. We'll probably have webinars on advanced. Our team will do them for free, right? Probably in June or something later on in the summer. Once we have more feature sets to fill out, like, a 45-minute or an hour program, we'll have an advanced webinar. But most of your clients are probably on plus because that's most akin to pro. All right, here's what we're going through. We've gone through the slides. I'm going to ask a couple polls. I'm going to show you QBOBestPractices.com, and then we're going to be in my QBOA. We're going to look at the team, the work and engagement tracking, Slack integration, file share, And then we'll dive into Tsheets as well. And, you want to see what client project the staff's working on in the current state. So, and then you have navigation tips and tricks, and usually that's almost the end. But if we can go in and show quick on the bank rules and the automation, recurring transaction, and some key accountant settings, we'll probably look at that. But these last two bullet points I go into in the account best practice in the client file session, which is like 75 minutes long. This one's just an hour. So heavy QBOA, okay? By all means, download the deck for those links. It's just 11 slides. Okay, I'm going to ask this poll, right? So feel free to answer. Do you have clients currently using QBO? I know it's rather obvious, but the goal is the answers, which I don't share with marketing or anything. It's just for me. Because I want to see what percent as it grows. Every week I do these webinars. Not yet, 1 to 5, 5 to 15, 15 plus, or all our clients are using QBO. And you'd be surprised while you're answering it. These percentages have changed. I'll share it in a second, tell you what it is. It's about 70% voted. I'll leave it open for, another 15, 20 seconds. But when we were doing the ABP a couple of years ago, right, it would have been, not yet would be like 50%. And then like 30% 1 to 5. Right. And then the smaller percentages would be 5 to 15. And then now I'm seeing it grow a little bit towards the other end of the spectrum. So with 77% voted, and we can close it there, 35% though today, not yet. No clients using QBO, which is great. So I'm glad we're really covering the firm platform, and thus there's a reason for this webinar series, just the regular accountant best practice. So I'm always looking at that too. Have we moved beyond this one? No. So we get to back the truck up and get set on and established on a firm foundation with QBOA. And then we'll go into the client file for navigation tips and tricks, because 35% of you don't have clients. You're probably using desktop. It's totally different, right? So how do you get to things? So we'll look at that too. 6%, 1 to 5. 30% of you have 5 to 15 QBO clients. So you're probably good with navigation. But anyway, that's good. 18% here today. You're over 15 clients. In your QBOA list, you have more than 15 clients. And then 12% of you, that's the percent that's growing. Well, just drop down to 11. All our clients are using QBO. Still, I mean, that would be a 0 for a long time. So very interesting to me. I'm going to close the poll. Thanks for voting. If you didn't, don't worry about it. There's no CBE credit that I can give you, and then we'll do a poll at the end. That's it. Just one, but I appreciate that. Hopefully you're still seeing my screen. Sometimes when I close the poll, it locks it up or something. So let me know in the chat area of the questions box if you're not seeing it. Okay. But thanks for answering the poll. Okay. I'm in QuickBooks Online Accountant, clearly. And most of you know what it looks like. Even those who sign up have no clients. It's just a white screen, but at least you have this. The client will never see this. You're never going to invite them to this. They have their own subs. And I will go in as a client a little later when we're doing the file transfer, because there's this ability to transfer files back and forth securely. You get like your own little portal system built into the work section, which we'll get to. But the client list, and there's 2 different versions, so yours might be different. You might have the status column to the left of the client name, and it's just like email address and stuff, phone number, and that's it. Some of you might have the view of bookkeeping info, the last bank feed download, payroll info. We integrate with ProConnect Tax Online. So that's the client dashboard. Clicking on the client name doesn't actually go into their file. It's just some information. Right? You can add client notes that just you and your staff see. Bookkeeping info, payroll, shared documents. That's where the documents are stored, right? And I'll show you I use this client all the time, so we'll be uploading yet another document from them. And then tax info, right? This edit client tab is important, right? If you're the master admin at QBOA, as I am, you will see it delete permanently. The relationship's over, you can totally delete the client from your list. Make an active just removes it from the list, but it's still there, kind of just buried, right? But the delete permanently literally breaks the connection between you and the client file. Neither cancel the subscription, right? we'll go over wholesale billing versus, direct pay or the client billing when we get to the add client window. But there are some options over here in the edit client window, and here's where you can change the client name, et cetera, things like that. If you've done a 5 for 25 and, the sales consultant would have gone through and set up QBO Shell 1, Shell 2, Shell 3, Shell 4, this is where you'd go in and change like the name to the real name. You do that here and in the client QBO file. Right? So there is that. And then we'll come back to this add client window in a sec. But just so you know, you have some stuff that you can track, notes, etc., things like that. Right here, I love this when you mouse over this number here, or the person profile icon, whatever it is. This tells me what team members of QBOA can access this client. And then I have the email address of my client, typically the master admin. So again, I just drilled into the client name, that's all. Didn't go into their file yet. We will be going into a client file, and I usually click the QB icon. Whether it's to the left of your client name in your QBOA or in the actual status column, either way, it'll drive you into their books file, whether it's Simple Start, Essentials, Plus, Self-Employed, or Advanced. And we'll go over which QBO levels, when you add a client, can you add to QBOA, and which ones does a client have to go out on their own to set up and then invite you. It's really just Simple Start. But, there is that scenario where you're going to get new clients to the firm that already have QBO. So you're not going to create a new one for them, right? How do they invite you? We'll go over that too. And there's a way to get them on your list as well, right? They just invite you as the accounting firm, and we'll go over that. So the client list, nothing really special there, but what's special about it is that it's a consolidated list, and all your team members can see it, depending if you've given them access to the particular client. Regarding the tenet of collaboration, we have team. This is where you invite not your clients, but your staff members. Seems obvious, right? But still, wanted to qualify. You just add a user, and inviting a staff member is really simple. And I'll use Ray as an example. We'll look at Valerie too, because Valerie's like a full user, pretty much has almost all the power I do. And then Ray is very basic administrative staff member. And I'll show you what she sees when she logs into the firm QBOA. Because all these team members, we all work off the clients that I check off, right? So for Ray, I invite her at her email, her first name, last name, right? She accepts the invite. And I check off the clients I want her to see. Not all of them, just like 7 or 8, for whatever reason. Administratively, I can also reduce Ray or restrict her to a basic or a customized option or full access. She doesn't have any access to firm info. She doesn't see the firm credit card under wholesale billing. She doesn't see the free QBO Plus file we give the firm when they sign up for QBOA. It's called Your Books. And she can't really manage clients. She can only really access the clients that I gave her access to in the Client Access tab. Right? So very fundamental user restrictions. I wouldn't say that it's, full-blown robust user restrictions at the team level at this point, but just showing you what's in there now today. I'm sure we'll build it out. Notice, though, that Ray has access to all these clients. So on this file, Cloud Collaboration or Everson Estate or the General, she's essentially a company admin on that file. I can't further restrict her from the work she does within the client file. She's basically a company admin. So it's either do I turn her on for the file or off? Okay. Sometimes I get that question. Hey, I'd love Ray to be able to go into Everson Estate, but I don't want her to see payroll. No, too bad. Right, not at this time. But one day, hopefully. Right. It's either can she access a file or can't she? So you would set that up as you're, inviting all of your team members to the QBOA. This would never be a client though, okay? Clients access from a totally different place. Well, they go to qbo.intuit.com to access, but their email, right, their user ID and password drives them into their file, whereas me, Ray, Valerie, Leah, Sean, Ryan, right, the team members of QBOA, drives them into the QBOA they're a part of. Then they can go into the client file. Okay. So that's team. Now, I'm going to bring up Firefox. I love Chrome and Firefox for QBO. Again, I grew up on desktop. but I have the benefit of in early 2009, they asked me, hey, you got to start paying attention to QBO. I'm like, all right. And this is way before the day when we even started investing in it. That wasn't even until like 2012. QBO, by the way, was first came out December of 01. So it was just kind of hanging out for 12 years, I guess. Anyway, I got in when it was 09. It was still fairly early, I guess you could consider. You probably didn't have any clients on it. We were making a lot of strides in like QuickBooks Account Edition in 09, right? With client data review and all that stuff. So probably wouldn't have any clients in QBO. I had some friends that had a lot of clients in QBO, but they were just kind of way outside the norm, right? But I learned a lot from them. Anyway, I've always been using Google Chrome for it, so you get used to what you used to. Firefox also a viable browser to use with QBO. I avoid Internet Explorer with QBO except for the one scenario where I have to use it when I'm converting from QBO back to desktop. Then you would use Internet Explorer, and IE 11 is the best for that. Requires ActiveX. But other than that, I'm in Chrome or Firefox. And you probably are too. What I like about Chrome, and I'll talk about this a little bit or a little later when we get into the client file towards the end, is that you can create Chrome people, right? And I create, now you don't need all these people, right? You're probably using Chrome like all day long for stuff, right? And things you do that are not QBO related. If you are, and you're a Chrome user, or even a Chrome Power user, then you probably already know. You can click on your little person icon, or it might say person one in the upper right, and do this later on today or after lunch or whatever, tomorrow morning. Go to manage people and add a person, right? Pick an icon, don't create a desktop, just call it QBO. Because you're going to create a user just for QuickBooks Online work. And that's very beneficial because when you clear the cache, it just clears it for just the QBO user. So you're isolating your QBO work into a Chrome user so that, I use Chrome for other things, right? So like, I got all these bookmarks and stuff. I'm going to show you how you can create a top icon bar. So you're one click away from pages you just don't know where they are yet, when you're in a client file, any client file. So creating a Chrome user specifically for QBO is advantageous. Top icon bar, clearing cache, it doesn't interrupt what you use Chrome for other things, right? So I will put this in the chat area while I'm thinking about it because I won't remember. Okay, anyway, so I isolate Chrome, I isolate QBO in a different Chrome user. Firefox doesn't have that ability, but it's really helpful. Firefox just has great visuals and stuff. This is Ray. She is in QBO, in the same QBOA as I am, right? Clean Books LLC. But compared to what I see, right, she has just Clients Pro Advisor and work. Because I want her to get certified. I want her to be adept at the platform. I want her to go in and track engagements I've assigned to her and have Slack integration, all that stuff too. I've even invited her to the free Tsheets, I got, right? But she doesn't have the ability to add a user. She doesn't have the ability to, let me go back to this is the main screen. She sees the clients I've given her access to, 13 of our whatever, 72, but she doesn't have an access to add a subscription or view any team or apps or anything like that, or the firm file. All really important stuff. So I can really restrict her to just see the clients she sees without any other administrative access at all to QBOA at large. Okay? I hope that helps. And I'll leave it for work for later. So that's team. Pro Advisor, okay? Benefits versus training. This is where you'd go. You click on training. You scroll down to take the QuickBooks Online certification exam. And once you pass that, the actual advanced, if you want to be advanced in QBO, certified. But do go into the benefits because notice I've racked up 25, 50 points. That's not just for me. That's because there's other team members in my QBOA that have gotten certified. So I've been earning points to get into elite status, and I'll go over why that helps, but you can look at it later when you click on Pro Advisor. No matter the user access level that you grant your team members to your firm QuickBooks Online accountant, QBOA. No matter that, they will have access to ProAdvisor, as you saw when Ray was logged in. ProAdvisor and work and clients, everybody sees. The other stuff, your books, add user, add client, well, that's different. Like firm information, that's all different based on level. But here's the way the firm earns points, right? So when because that's why I'm at 2550, not just because of me, right? Elite status starts at 1600. Why would I have, nearly double that? And that's because all my team members are certified. I have a lot of QBO subscriptions. I don't have advanced sub, but here, 100 points you get for just every QBO, right? So for QBO subscription, I should say, or I add a client sub, that's 50 points each. So that's how you get it, right? How you earn points. You can click on history and it tells me how I got it, right? Mostly because of the QBO subs I have in here. Okay. So there's that. And then you have all your benefits based on your tier. Go down and desktop downloads, right? Because I'm also desktop ProAdvisor. Marketing tools can help you market and get yourself out there. There's a whole marketing hub you can be a part of. You get a free website from Squarespace, things like that. As well as product support. You just click down and I can do a chat from here or a call. Then I have other training as well. And then software and services and discounts you can pass on for your clients as well. Okay, just click View Apps or Discounts. There you go. Okay, so this is the benefits versus the training. Again, when you click on training, don't be surprised when it logs you into accounts.intuit.com. And then it'll bring you back to the training page. And this is where you get certified. Okay. There's a few other courses too. There's a recertification. I have to recertify by July 31st. Right? So that's why I don't have my current. I'm still currently certified, but I need to recertify by July 31st in order to keep my status. Right? And then there's a bunch of other QBO courses. These are all, on certification, advanced certification, as well as specialty courses. And then, on the benefits tab, you have links to Accountant University, right, where you have all this stuff as well. There's my desktop stuff. So benefits training, that's ProAdvisor. All of you get that. And I mean all team members of the QBOA. Again, not clients. Okay. Now let's go to work. This is the important one. So what I'm going to show now, and then we'll dive into a client file. Again, we got 25 minutes left. So the next 10 minutes is going to be on how you're managing the work and engagement tracking, as well as file share. Also, there's two apps to consider that'll just show at a high level that could be important for you. If you're already using an engagement tracking software, then you're probably not going to use this. That's okay too. But some will, and we're building it out. Tsheets as well as Slack. We also give that to the firm. Slack is an instant communication platform, so you can move away from email. It's cut down my email by about 60%. We use it internally. That's why I'm a fan of it. But you can connect it to work in QBOA to message back and forth and communicate with not only your staff but your clients. And I'll explain later. There are some firms that are like adopting the whole firm of the future that use Slack, and they create Slack channels for their high-value clients, and they charge their clients for that instant communication with the firm. So there's that too. But in the work module, and this is, your clients would never see this, these do become projects in the Your Books file, so you can track project costing. I got a high-level example of that to show. And I go in deeper on project tracking at large in the Beyond the Basics, and I have a video on it. So on our website that I put in the chat area. So if you got a client that's service-based and wants project tracking, even labor burden, you can send them the 14-minute video. Right? It's alive and well in QBO now. Okay? So work. For the firm, this is where you're going to create projects. We give you some templates, right? Biweekly payroll, client onboarding, monthly bookkeeping, yearly taxes. You can create your own template if you want. Or you can just create projects just by clicking Create Project. Work has two components to it. Well, I guess with Slack like three, but still, you're creating projects or you're creating a request for a client to share files with you. right? All the staff see this. You just create a project, whether you're using a template or not. This could be for like an audit gig or something. Forgive me, I'm not clever at thinking of project names, but you just translate it in your brain there, what would make sense. You can even do like internal trainings, non-billable stuff for my firm, but I'm going to link it to, you know, this particular client file, and it's due, you know, we'll say it's due the 10th of May. You can make things repetitive, so this would be maybe for bank feed reconcile reporting or whatever you're doing, financial statements or QuickBooks cleanup, whatever you do typically, payroll. You can make them repetitive. I can't broadcast it out to all clients, but I can duplicate it for them, but I'm waiting for that. Like I create one project and published it to all 72 clients, right? Because some of those things I mentioned, those are gigs for 99% of my client base, right? I can assign it to me or other people, okay? And notice, not all my team members show up here. Why do you suppose that is? It's because they don't all have access to this client file, right? So they show up here as long as they have. When I set them up as a team member of QBOA, I checked off the particular client, right? So I'll assign it to Ray, let's say. You can do a Slack reminder, and then I just click Save, okay? And that adds it to my piece there. Now, before we talk about client requests, I'm going to go into notifications because there's two ways to get notified. Through email, but again, I'm trying to get away from that, so I don't really want that, but I think for the notifications to happen, I leave it on. And then there's Slack. Slack is, which I'll show you mine. I already got it set up, and that pop you heard, maybe I just heard it, you probably didn't hear it, but it was a little alarm went off because Slack picked up another message from QBOA work. I just created that project. So I would, you know, every team member within QBOA would create a Slack display name. You can invite them to it, and some probably already have it or not. So I just have Ray, Valerie, and myself. And then I created a Slack channel where all notifications go to. And then I assign the channel to every single client that, you know, we're going to be doing this work for. The client still can't see it yet. I've not created channels for them yet. But this just allows the notification to come via Slack instead of email. So you would set all that up. Here is Slack, right? Hopefully you're seeing it now. Right? And again, I use it internally. I'm not going to show you that one. We answer all our questions with account and sales through there. But here it is. I have this channel too. And this is the audit gig I just created, and Ray would see it too. It would be an @Ray, because when she logs in, into Slack too, she would see it. So I don't have to email her and say, hey, you just picked up an audit gig. I need you to start working on that. No, Ray would see it, and then she could message me directly, say, yeah, I picked it up, got it. Or change a status on it, and it would also update. So when let me see if I can show this. Let's see here. Well, let's just do the Katie's payroll that Ray has too. It's blocked for some reason. Slack would pick up that payroll's blocked, and I could say, wait a minute, what happened here? You know, I could go ahead and message her and say, what up with the Katie's payroll? You know, block, status change. And then when she goes into Slack, she'll see that we message back and forth. Right? So getting away from email, walking down the hall, I can just have this instant message, if you will. Right? So it's in the channel here. Here's where I would see any updates, new projects, changes in status or assignees or date to existing ones. And they're all communicated, and this is kind of like an instant message / alert type platform. You could even upload documents here, right? So wanted to show you that. That's Slack. That's we give you a free Slack team when you sign up for QBOA. And if you want to look for it, just go to notifications, and down below you'll see Slack, and that's where you can connect it, right? So the other part of this too, these work engagements, right? Like bank feed rec and P&L comparison. When you create a work project, it becomes a project in the Your Books file. Remember, we give all firms that sign up for QBOA a free QBO Plus file, which you saw that Ray doesn't have access to, but Valerie and I do, right? So I can restrict my staff from seeing it because I don't want them to see the firm P&L or balance sheet, right? So this is just a QBO Plus file, and I can track the projects. The actual, when I or Ray or Valerie creates a work, it becomes a project, right? And then I can track the profit margin of it, the cost and the income, even for time coming in from, say, Tsheets or the weekly timesheet or single time activity. And then when I run payroll, it puts it into payroll expense at the project level. So I can literally run a profit and loss by job. And that's new. That's fairly new with QBO at large. But this is a Plus subscription. So as I mentioned earlier on a slide, we had those 4 levels of QBO. You have to have Plus or Advanced for project tracking, and labor burden is now a feature from the time in the payroll. If you need to know more about that, look for the 14-minute project tracking video on the QBOBestPractice.com, or email me and I'll send it to you if you can't find it. But on QBOBestPractice.com, you can just do a search. So you can do all that from work into projects, right? Now, the other thing I wanted to mention, then we'll move on to apps and then adding a client and then do some navigation tips and tricks. Tsheets is also an app we give the firm. While work is cool, I'll come back to here, right? I can see that I've assigned it to Ray or me, right? And I can look out even on a calendar and see all the engagements we have for projects. But I can't see what Ray's actually working on right now. Or did she go to lunch? Or did she go home early? I can't see that from work, right? We're just tracking like the engagements and the projects and their different status, due date, right? And the name and stuff. And we'll get to client requests. We'll get to the file share too. Even you can open up like QuickBooks engagements for payroll and stuff. I usually turn it off so I'm just seeing like QBO engagements, stuff we've created as a firm. But when I launch Tsheets, I can actually see that Ray right now for the last hour and 47 minutes has been working on the bank feed rec and P&L comparison project for Everson Estate. And for 2 hours, Woody's been on cloud collaboration. Also, it's the same, bank feed rec and monthly reports. See, I'm not clever. I don't think of great ideas for like what things you guys do, but you'll be able to translate it, right? I can see who's working in the moment using Tsheets because of the Who's Working tab. And check out tsheets.com. They got a lot of videos, and I just only mention that because you can activate Tsheets if you're the master admin of QBOA. You can turn it on and invite your staff. It's free. Okay? You might just be okay using the timesheet or something in the Your Books file, right? If I go to the dashboard and plus sign or single time activity, that's cool too, right? That would still go to payroll. I'd still see the job costing there. But what it doesn't give us is this like who's working visibility. I love that. Okay. And then time would just flow into the project. Time's non-posting, but once I put it on payroll, it hits P&L, and there you have it. We even have one more thing, and I'll move away from project tracking because that's not really the most of this. Some of you guys might not even use the Your Books file for a year or two. It won't really matter. But there are reports. Like I can see the P&L by the project, of course, but time cost by employee or vendor. So this is projected cost at the time before payroll. So there is more visibility at the firm level now on what the staff are doing with Tsheets, but also what's the cost of the time to me as the firm owner. It's definitely changing for the better, QBO. This visibility you didn't have before, okay? All right, the other thing with work that's important is a request. This is file share, right? Please send doc. Choose your client, due date, right? Publish the client's QuickBooks. It even notifies them by email. You can even add a doc to them. Now I'm going to jump into another Chrome user. So I have a Chrome user for every QBO file you think you're going to be in simultaneously, right? Desktop only allows like multi-instance for 2 files, right? QBO can be as many Chrome users as you want, right? Going with the same login. But I'm going to go in as the client. Go into QBO.intuit.com. Remember, not through QBOA. This is Clay, the client, not Woody, the team member, owner of the firm. I just want to show, where does the client see the document request? Sorry, I forgot to mute when I was drinking water. I know that sounds loud to you. I apologize. I will try to remember next time. So remember, let me go back to that screen. Okay, it's way busier than what you will all see, particularly if you have no QBO clients and you just set up a QBOA, but it's worth looking at this screen. Some of you won't even see it. You'll just go right into QBOA. However, some might have several QuickBooks Online accountants because it's a larger firm, you know, and you can see what clients are in each QBOA, you know. So, I mean, QBOAs are free. You only pay if you're paying for the client subscription, okay, under wholesale billing or not. You can even take it over without the discount, and we'll go over that in a bit. But we don't want to go into client files down here, right? This is how a client goes in, right? We want to be up in QuickBooks Accountant. I'm doing this for a purpose, only to show you something. Ordinarily, I go in from the firm, from QBOA, not as the client. My accountant tab, this is where they would pick up the please send doc, see? And then they would just add a document, browse out. Let's see, yeah, that's fine. This is my bank statement, let's say, right? Because soon there'll be a way to access a bank statement and bank feeds, by the way, in QBO. That's coming. Our CEO, Sasan Gidarzi, announced that at QuickBooks Connect back in October or November. But right now, they can, like Clay will send me this, I'll leave this request open, and every month he sends me the bank statement, you know, so I don't have to log in because it's such a hassle now with the, you know, security codes and the phone and stuff. So I just leave this request open, and I tell him, hey, Clay, every time, send me the statement every month, right? And it just helps with the reconciliation, you know, and the bank feeds and stuff. So they add a document, even notes, right, which I'll see. And then back in QBOA, all right, if I refresh the window and I filter it for requests, yeah, see, there's a little one on the paper clip icon, which means the document was uploaded. There it is. So I get that. And like I mentioned before, though I don't get an alert, it's really just these little icons. So you have to really look for it. But back in the client list, when I drill into his name, I mean the client's name, the business name, and go to shared documents, there's all the documents. Right? There it is. There's my statement, or his statement he sent. Right? So work, right? Important for Slack integration, for instant message, but if you don't care about that, or you don't care about the Tsheets piece, the time coming into the Your Books file for project tracking and just estimated cost to the business, if that's not important either at your where you are yet, that's fine. Then just work for engagement tracking and file share tracking. Right? That's what we're tracking here. And you can do it in list or, like I said, calendar view, right? Which I like. This is fairly new, but I like the calendar view. Okay, apps, that's just a third-party ecosystem. That's my fifth tenet. I've yet added to this PowerPoint slide, if you remember. And this is where you can add apps. And there's a bunch of apps that offer a Pro Advisor affiliation or QBOA affiliation of 20 or 25% off, depending. This is where I added Tsheets. The master admin of apps can see the apps that the clients have, as well as apps they've added on behalf of the client and invited them after. You don't include client apps on wholesale billing yet, and usually it's a free trial, and you invite the client, and he puts in their credit card. And then there's apps for the firm, too, of which I did Slack and Tsheets so far, right? Yes, Leah asked, for Tsheets, can this be used if you don't have employees? Yeah, I mean, some of you guys are just yourself, and maybe you have a contractor sometimes during the year. You totally can, because Tsheets offers a free, one user subscription. That's how I got it, and I just I invited Ray to do it, and there was no extra cost for me. So yes, you can track that, and in Tsheets, thank you for here. Let me show you this. Let's clock out as me. I can do a class. We'll say this is billable hours. The service item was, bookkeeping, and I am making it billable because I want to create an invoice in QBO against it, right? Right, and then Ray. I think she was in there too. She can get out now. We'll say it was just she did some support calls, and then she clocked out. I have to choose a class. This was billable too, because on the P&L they like to run a P&L by billable versus non-billable time, quote unquote. So we both clocked out, right? And then if I refresh, no one's on the clock now, right? And then I can export all approved time. It would come into the weekly timesheet of the Your Books file, right? It would be here, still non-posting, but then I could go create an invoice against any unbilled activity, right? Because when I go to sales, hopefully I already have some. Yeah, I got unbilled activities. Oh, $23. But I can create an invoice against it, right? Or if I go do an invoice for cloud collaboration, because you're using the free Your Books file to bill your clients, right? Both QBO and desktop. We just don't ping to desktop data, but still I could bill somebody, right? The drawer opens and I can look at just time and add it all to the invoice and then boom, send that out. I wanted to show something else that let's tackle the automation piece and then we'll go into navigation. I got like 7 minutes left, probably go 5 minutes over, so hang in there. But there is a setting, and your client could take advantage of this too. Any client service-based, they want to invoice for all time. A couple ways to automate that. You can create, or there's a setting I can activate, I should say. Automatically invoice unbilled activity. Uninvoiced time, delayed charges, expenses, COGS, right? Credit card expense, bill, check, whatever. Just like I did on the time entry in Tsheets, I could do it in QBO where I flag the project or the customer and check off the billable box. You do that at the point of the cost entry or booking incurring the expense or the time or whatever. And every month for any client that has unbilled or uninvoiced time, material, expense, QBO will create invoices for. Now, if you want to, that's kind of cool, but might be way too global of a setting or way too intense. You can set up a recurring transaction. Now, I'm showing you in the Your Books file, but just know your clients could do this too. Essentials plus Advanced, they all support recurring transactions. Think of it as memorized transactions for all you who are champion desktop users. Same theory. Create an invoice, but what desktop doesn't do, two things, among others, automatically send the invoice once the recurring invoice happens and include unbilled activity. So this allows me to make it specific to a client because maybe not all clients, I do the global invoice against unbilled time thing. So I encourage this for your clients, but also you, particularly when you are, like for Leah, if she's going to one day be leveraging the Your Books file, right, and tracking all this. And really, I wouldn't even invoice the client at that point. I mean, I would do a recurring sales receipt with payments turned on and put in their ACH info. So every month I just get their direct payment, for services rendered. And you roll in the QBO fee, right? That's the other piece to this is when you're adding a client, that's the benefit of wholesale billing. And I'll show this and then we'll move into a client file and we'll spend just a few minutes navigating, okay? Tips and tricks. Come to the in the client file account best practice because I'll look more at bank feeds and some other settings that are important. But I'm just thinking, sure, navigation tips and tricks, that's good. So we'll go over a few minutes to show those. So we're aligned because I know that can be a struggle when you don't have any clients and you're so used to desktop. So let's spend time there. But this firm management piece with the project profitability and the time tracking and the cost to the firm, the stuff you couldn't see before, now you can. Tsheets, Slack for instant messaging, just whatever can make your processes more efficient with QBOA as opposed to, installing QuickBooks Accountant Edition on every single computer for your staff. Networking, sure, but there's no way really to see the full client list, right? And then there's all the file transfer garbage, right? So this is like, even if you prefer desktop, there are some advantages to QBO, right? QBOA. Okay. So wholesale billing, just remember, though it defaults to that, it doesn't have to be. Direct discount is the client paying. You're going to have that too. Most of my friends in the industry have a mixed bag. Some are all in on a wholesale, some it's mixed bag, right? So some clients like to pay and that's that. You create the subscription. It's $42 a month for the first year and then it's going to go to $60. right? And the client's going to be paid. So I would put in the business name, the email, like Woody or something, and then he'll accept the invite, and or Leah, let's say, and she accepts the invite, and then, right, she can put in the credit card, right? She's paying. But wholesale is where you get the 50% off. For Plus, Essentials, or in Advanced, I think it's 30% off, or Self-Employed, right? These are the options. Notice you don't see Simple Start here. Simple Start's the one your client would have to create on their own if they need it, because they had to have Simple Start. There's no reason for them to move up or whatever. Like they couldn't do Self-Employed because they really needed double entry accounting, but they don't really need Essentials, right? That's the scenario here. They would invite someone at the firm as the accounting firm and manage users, accept the invite, it adds it to QBOA. So for options, most are going to be on Plus, and then some on Advanced and Essentials, right? But wholesale is 50% off, including the payroll. You never need to be the master admin, and because the client will never see the firm credit card, it's all handled billing from within QBOA, which your client has absolutely no access to. And then you just check off all the team members, they're going to have access to the file. Right? So wholesale billing. And then Leah would roll that into her service fee package. She charges me monthly, set up a recurring sales receipt with QuickBooks payments, and put in my banking and routing number. And every month I pay her $300 for this, this, and this. Includes the QBO. And she's not chasing an invoice around for me. There's that too. A lot of firms are adopting that approach to getting paid when you can. Moving away from AR. Okay, let's dive in the client file. Navigating, and then we'll close it off. There's some tips and tricks, right? I always like to use reports. I'll come in this more in the client file account best practice, but there is an accountant toolbox. If you're not seeing it in the upper left, you're not in through QBOA. You're going in as the client, or they invited you as a company admin, so change that, right? Have them invite you as the accounting firm, accounting user. Report Tools is a cool tool because it allows me to set the default date range for my company financial reports. So we'll say last quarter cash basis, and then I'll right-click duplicate the tab I'm on, because you want to have open windows, right? There's not like in a view open window list like we're used to with desktop, but still. You can have as many windows open as you want. It works for transactions too. Transactions, reports, lists. Now when I go to reports and I run a P&L, so the company financial summary reports will inherit that default date range, right? And let's say I want to drill down on something like this unapplied cash payment income, so I don't get it. Well, don't drill down it yet. Right-click, because you want to keep the summary up in another tab. Right-click, duplicate. Then drill down on the negative 11,388. So you can see the transaction report. This approach works with transactions too. Right-click journal entry, open a new tab. Now I got 4 windows open in the same file. Oh, sorry, Stephanie. Yeah, cool. I'll send you the link. All right. So I have 4 tabs open, right? And they work with different dual monitors, right? Or multi. Right? Now I have the detail report over here. Right. So, and we'll go over more and more stuff, but this is important. This tabbed browsing, as they call it, to get multiple windows. Don't hit the back and forward button. It's just going to frustrate you. Right. Use the right-click duplicate. Okay. The other thing is create a top icon bar. So when I hit chart of accounts in any file, it takes me to the list of registers, my chart of accounts. Right. We'll go over usage limits in a different webinar and why your client might need QBO Advanced, but anyway, you'll see that in settings now too. But I go in through all that stuff in the client file, in that accountant best practice, in the client file session. I do suggest that one next. 75 minutes long, but it's, you know, just in QBO and the best practices there for an accountant. Okay, so no matter what file I'm in, I click chart of accounts, brings me there. I click journal entry, brings me there. Enter a bill would bring me to a bill. How did I get that? You star it. Right? I'm in Chrome or Firefox. You just bookmark it, right, and add it to the bookmarks bar. That's all I did. Okay? So that's how I got that. The other thing I already went over, which is the Chrome user. So today, first, set up a Chrome user just for QBO work that you do. Isolate QBO work. Call it what you want. The little icon, manage people, add a person, Do not create a shortcut desktop. You probably already got plenty of those. Choose an icon, call it QBO, right? So then it gives you a blank bookmarks bar. So go to all your transactions or lists and then just save them to the bookmarks bar. So no matter what file you're in, when you click products and services, it brings me to my item list. Okay? And then start right-clicking duplicate to get open windows, to be on reports and other transactions, right? I got an invoice. I got the items list open, right? I got a sales receipt open. I got a bill, a check, right? Just go for it. Start doing, I know it's an extra step, but this allows me to be in multiple windows in the same file. Okay, works great with reporting or the bank register and bank feeds, what have you. Yep. Okay, those are basically the tips and tricks with navigating, right? Because, you know, you have a left-hand panel. A lot of this stuff is pretty obvious. We're almost done, just a couple more minutes, like reporting, taxes, chart of accounts and reconciles under accounting, expense and sales, obvious. Banking is bank feeds, right? And the bank rules you set up to automate the data entry or at least the automation of the category. Dashboard, you even have this overview tab, which I'll go over too in the other account best practice in the client file, right? So you can see some common issues happening. You want to be in the file from QBOA, right? Like 33% of you, around a third of you today didn't have any QBO clients, right? So at least you have QBOA and you're starting from there, right? Whether they invite you or you set up the QBO sub for them, you're managing it from QBOA, which is what we covered today, and all that piece. And when you're in the client file, now you how to navigate a little better and set it up for success so you don't get frustrated like, where are things? So you have the left-hand panel. You got the plus sign. These are transactions. All the transactions are here. Not the only place to access them, but most common. And then you have the gear icon. Operational things, settings, lists, reconcile, budgeting, you know, users.